Alors, reprise de la session geOrchestra premier jour, geOcom 2021. Juste une très courte introduction en français, puisque toute la session sera en anglais. Le but de cette session est de revenir sur le nouveau visualiseur MapStore qui est dorénavant disponible dans geOrchestra depuis quelques semaines. Et le but est de vous donner un aperçu de ce qui a été fait depuis l'intégration dans geOrchestra, les fonctionnalités clés de ce qu'il est possible de faire avec, quelques éléments pour vous donner envie ou vous alerter sur des choses à prendre en compte pour une migration dans les mois qui viennent entre MapFishApp et MapStore pour vos utilisateurs. On fera un point sur les limitations actuelles, puis la feuille de route, et on veut laisser un temps d'échange assez long avec vous pour que vous puissiez poser vos questions. Voilà. Et à partir de maintenant, let's talk in English. So we are pleased to have Tobia Di Pisa from Geosolution, that is a society which worked very hard for us to bring MapStore2 in geOrchestra environment. And so I let you, Tobia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. First of all, thank you all to attend this presentation. My name is Tobia Di Pisa, and I'm a project manager here in Geosolutions, and I'm usually involved on all projects related to MapStore in general. Okay, in the last 2 years, more or less, we have worked for Metropole at the MapStore integration into geOrchestra. Okay. Before start the presentation, I would like to spend really quickly a few words about my company, about Geosolutions, a company founded in 2006. Basically, we are actively supporting 440 projects across different products like MapStore, obviously, GeoServer, GeoNode, CCAM, GeoNetwork, and so on. And we are offering many packages, support packages, basically enterprise support services, deployment, training, and integration with customer projects, like we did for geOrchestra, let's say. And we boost a lot of clients around the world, from small, medium companies to big organizations. So this is basically the agenda. What is MapStore? Who uses MapStore? MapStore at work, and briefly at the end, MapStore roadmap. During this presentation, basically, I will provide an overview of MapStore functionalities and capabilities, basically. So first of all, what is MapStore? Well, MapStore is is an application that allows you to create and share different kind of contents like maps, dashboards, and stories. It works on top of the React ecosystem, and it is very versatile since it is pluggable and customizable. It is map agnostic, so that an abstraction level allow to work with many mapping engines. Basically, these supported ones are OpenLayer, Leaflet, and Cesium for different purposes. It can consume basically data from many sources on top of the most common OGC standards, and it is released under simplified BSD license, so basically it is commercial free. So it is basically a product, so that you can use it as it is, simply customizing the look and feel if you want, with many out-of-the-box features that are available by default. Or you can use it as a framework, let's say, to build your own application. And using MapStore plugins and APIs, it is opened to different solutions, and use cases and basically to an heterogeneous set of scenarios. Who uses MapStore? Basically, a lot of organization. Well, there is a lot of clients around the world for which we are working on, or we are supporting for different application use cases, scenario that are involving MapStore. Some of them are small or medium companies and public administration, for example, also here in Italy, while other one are big companies or organizations. The MapStore community in general is growing a lot, especially in the last 2 years, in terms of both users and developers' contributions. In the last 2 years, also the geOrchestra community started joining the, let's say, the MapStore1, and we are really pleased about that because we think this is a let's say very good opportunity to grow up more and learn from each other, let's say. So basically here I'm going to provide you some few slides in order to present you some MapStore integration in some clients ecosystems basically. So this one is, for example, the MapStore integration into geOrchestra, but we have also clients like MapStand, as you can see, a completely customized look and feel of MapStore. City of Brussels, this is a simple one. Austro Control, and some other public administration here in Italy, like the Arno River Basin Authority and the municipality of Genova, and so on. So online you can find a lot of information, sorry, a lot of information about MapStore. So you can reach our demo instance at mapstore.geosolutionsgroup.com, but also user guides, developer guides. The project is in GitHub, so it is basically public and free, and some other videos and material is available in YouTube. And obviously, don't miss to take into account the mailing list for both user and development that you can use for ask questions and raise topics. So MapStore at work. Well, MapStore has many functionalities. So during the presentation, we will provide an overview of the most common and relevant ones. So the key points basically are these ones. So as I said, many features that are available out of the box. You can cover many scenarios and various use cases depending on the purposes. MapStore works entirely on top of the OGC standards, the most common ones. And it is easy to configure. It is easy to customize, and most important thing is an open source project, as you know, and compatible basically with the most common browsers like Firefox, Edge, Chrome, and Safari. A quick overview of the MapStore map viewer. Basically, here there is a screenshot that presents some MapStore functionalities exploded basically in the UI. So it is obviously possible to collapse all of them if you want. So in the left side part of the viewer, you have the table of content basically with a lot of talk tools that you can activate as soon as you select a layer. Okay, so you can basically zoom to the layer, open the layer settings in order to tune the layer client side, some properties at least. You can filter it, open the attribute table, configure charts, and so on. So in the talk, you can organize layers in groups or in subgroups if you want and if you prefer, depending on your use case. Basically, for each layer in talk, you can have a legend available and a few other tools like drag and drop capabilities and the possibility to tune the opacity. Through the MapStore UI, you can also manage your backgrounds. Okay, so you can add and remove existing one. Okay, for your map. You can, as I said before, configure charts, widgets, in order to present statistical data or aggregated data of layer that you have included in your map. In the in the right side part, there is an option menu where you can access other MapStore functionalities if they are configured basically for the MapStore instance, so that you can export, import map contexts. You can save your map and you can share your map. You can give permissions to your maps in order to choose who can see it, if, for example, the map can need to be public or not, or private. And there are also a lot of other tools like the printing tools, annotations, and so on. In the UI, you can see also you can have available the search tool that can be configured in various ways. So the default configuration allow you to interact with the nominatim web service in order to find your location in the map. But you can also define your own location, okay, configuring bookmarks, or you can also connect the search tool to a WFS service, for example. In the footer part, we have other tools that can be configured. So the CRS switcher, the mass position, the most common one like the scale bar, and so on. One of the most important or the most common tool of MapStore is the attribute table. The attribute table to basically browse features of vector layer in a tabular view, and here you can obviously leverage on advanced or not advanced capabilities, like the possibility to edit, for example, data through the WFS service. Okay, the attribute table work on top the WFS service. Okay, so you can filter data. You can basically filter data also by selecting a feature on map. This is a functionality that we have introduced during the integration in geOrchestra. You can basically, as soon as you filter data or not, you can basically create charts and export your data, and so on. Another interesting tool of MapStore is the Visual Style Editor. Okay, this is something that we have introduced in MapStore early after basically the first release we did for geOrchestra. So basically, this now recently it is possible to leverage also on other advanced capabilities through the Visual Style Editor, where you can basically manage your styles. It works on top of the GeoServer REST APIs. Okay, so that you have a user-friendly interface that you can use to manage your symbolizers, to do classification using the SLD service community model of MapStore. And you can, more interesting, manage not only vector styles, but also raster styles. MapStore can be used also to annotate your maps. So basically, you have a map and you can annotate that map with defining region of interests. There are a lot of annotation types that are available. Also text annotation, not only geometric ones like polygon, circle, line, and so on. An interesting thing is, an interesting capabilities is that you can basically draw annotation by interacting directly with the map, but you can also define coordinates in a form. But you can also style your annotations. Okay, with the possibility to define also SVG symbols for points, annotations, and so on. There are a lot of functionalities here available. The map catalog, as I said before, you can save a map and you can manage permission on a map. The map catalog is a tool that allow you to browse, to list existing maps previously saved in MapStore. So existing map in MapStore, and so you can search for maps you have access to, all maps in case you are administrator. You can manage the permission properties through a modal window. You can share the map in various ways using a direct link, but also copying the snippet, the code snippet for embedding the MapStore map in a third-party website, for example, or in the social media. This is a tool that we have to thank you for Ren Metropole, basically, because this is something that we have included for the MapStore geOrchestra integration, since in the default since by default in in MapStore, there is a landing page that hosts basically the resource catalog. Okay. Here, through this tool, instead, you can directly browse and manage MapStore maps without leaving the viewer. Okay. As I said before, during the first overview of the MapStore viewer, layer settings, basically, the layer setting functionalities is something that can be accessed by the table of contents for a selected layer. And here you can access a lot of configuration properties directly from the UI. So they can be general configurations. So, for example, title, but also the translations, but also you can measure also scale denominators, the opacity, the tile size, the formats, and so on. Here you can also access the style editor, the visual style editor, and define which format to use for the identify operation. The catalog tool basically is the tool that allow you to add the new layers to the map. It works on top of WMS, WMTS, WFS, TMS, and CSW source type. Okay, we have to thank to geOrchestra community and Ren Metropole for this, because during the integration we worked on including the WFS and the TMS support. Import and export functionalities are obviously useful in working with MapStore. There is two formats available. The standard one, that is in JSON format, that is a MapStore native format, and during the geOrchestra integration, we also included the support for the web map context. Okay, so when you import or export basically a map, you can basically choose which format you want. For the exporting functionality, we have also other formats supported, like for the import functionality, we are also supporting KML, GeoJSON, GPX, and so on, and also annotation from there. The measurement tool, something again improved during the geOrchestra integration. You can perform multiple measurements and export or convert them for other purposes. Obviously, the map print at the moment based on MapFish2 with some customization provided by GeoSolutions to improve the legends capabilities, and is available. And then the share tool, the possibility to share your map with few advanced options, with some advanced option, like sharing a map at certain position, a certain extent, and so on. And we are supporting also 3D maps at the moment, 2D and DALF, basically, with Cesium JS. There is a control in the UI that you can use to switch every time the map from 2D and to 3D using Cesium. MapStore dashboards. Dashboards are another kind of resource that is available in MapStore. It is not yet available. I'm sorry, this is not yet available in the geOrchestra integration, but maybe it is something that can be considered in the future. I don't know. But anyway,
yes, we have a question of Severin who asking if the dashboard and stories are accessible yet. But no, it's not yet possible.
No. But I have a topic later in my presentation about this. Anyway. Dashboard, as I said, this is a really interesting tool that allows to basically present and aggregate, if you want, your data in a single view. So to offer an high-level view of data and, let's say, interconnection between different data sets. And it is especially useful for analysis purposes or decision process and so on. So it is basically possible, and a dashboard in general can be configured through a set of capabilities that are offered and that are working on top of the widget system in MapStore. So basically, a brief overview of the UI. There is a toolbar where you can basically highlight interconnected widgets. I will explain it later. And you can create additional widgets. Map widgets are supported, tabular widgets, the same that you have also in the map viewer, I mean. So you can define charts widgets, counters, text widgets, general text widgets for your contents and descriptions if you want, and the legend one that is usually connected to the map widgets configured in the dashboard. Each widget has a menu that you can use to do some configuration, not to access connected capabilities. So for example, in case of charts, to see the charts in a tabular view, to edit it, delete, or download data. This is a brief overview of the Widgets Editor that we have. They basically you can basically do a fine-tuning of all widgets for maps, tables, and charts as you want. So for map widget, you have the more or less the same possibilities, the same capabilities you have in the usual table of content in the viewer. So you can organize your table of content. You can manage the grouping of layers and manage layer properties and so on. You can choose the columns that you want to present to the end user for the tabular widgets, and you have a really fine-tuning of charts, thanks also to the recent improvement and update we did for charts using Plotly.js. Okay, we changed libraries in the first release of this year. And here you have a lot of capabilities for charts because you can do aggregation if you use WPS process in GeoServer for this, so you can aggregate your data. But you can also use that tool directly with WFS from the last release, measure release, without invoking the WPS process, and you have advanced option for managing labels, formatting labels, and so on. You can basically connect the widgets together. So if you connect a widget, for example, a chart, to a map, the chart basically is updated accordingly when you move, pan or zoom the map. Okay, so the charts is automatically filtered. Okay, and the same happens if you connect widgets to a table to a table widget, so that you can define a quick filter and other connected widgets are updated accordingly. And you can also do multiple connections, so table, map, and other widgets. This is really useful to analyze data. This is another tool that it is not available in the MapStore geOrchestra integration at the moment. Geostory is a tool that we have included, if I remember correctly, at the beginning of the last year, more or less, and this is a tool where that you can use to basically create your stories. Both view mode and edit mode are available, and you can let's say combine your interactive your maps, media content like images, videos, third-party content, and so on. Basically, there is a navigation toolbar that can be used to navigate sections that are organized in the body of the page, like title section, paragraph section, media section. There are a lot of sections available. You can, as you can see, you can here in this slide, you can manage a lot of section and media contents, okay, directly from the UI, where a web editor, an advanced web editor, help you on that. And all sections are organized in a continuous scrolling layout. In edit mode, you have a toolbar for each component of the UI, so you of the story. Sorry, so you can align contents, define contents, choose the size of elements in the UI, and so on. You can also configure immersive section, so I mean connecting different topic in your story, defining with a different background, different contents in terms of media contents, in order to give to the end user an immersive experience. Here are a few screenshots that describe how you can manage media contents through a media editor with the preview. Okay. Images, videos, and maps are available. So basically, you can incorporate in a story a map that you have defined in MapStore, for example, or you can define directly a map in the story editor. It helps you on defining a let's say something like a real website, okay, because you can also customize the theme on the whole set of for the entire story, I mean, or for specific or single components of the story itself. The application context is a really powerful tool that we have introduced during the geOrchestra integration, because it has been basically requested by Rennes Metropole for that integration. So here you have available an administrative tool where you can create your application context, okay? So where you can configure your MapStore viewer, okay, for different purposes. For specific scenarios, you can configure it by choosing the set of plugin, the default map context, content, and the name that you want for it. This is possible through the wizard, a multi-step wizard, where you can choose the name of the content, the URL changes accordingly. You can configure the, you can use the MapStore viewer capabilities to configure which should be the map of this context, sorry. So layers in talk, how they are organized, the backgrounds, the CRS that I want for my map, for my context, the catalog source, import external resources like annotation, and I can configure my context using a map, importing a map exported in a viewer, for example, and so on. In the third step, that is the most powerful one, you can configure directly from the UI your plugins, and you can choose which plugin you want to include in your context. Okay, this is a really powerful tool because it allows also to decide which kind of plugins can be enabled on the fly by the user or not. You can select, obviously, the plugin to include in your context. You can develop your own plugins and install it using that tool in the context, and so on. The fourth step basically is the one for managing permissions and sharing the content itself. That functionalities are the same across different MapStore resources like dashboards, Geostories, maps, and so on. The map templates tool is a tool developed during the application context, so it is available there, and it is really useful to define. It is useful for the administrator to define ready-made maps to be loaded in the context map by end users, basically. So adding or replacing, adding more contents defined in the templates, or entirely replacing the current map of the context. As I said before, MapStore can be easily customized and extended, okay? So you can customize the theme, for example, of MapStore, but you can also develop your own plugins that you can upload and install through the application context system. These are few examples of recent plugins that we have developed for Rennes Metropole, like the urbanism and the Cadastrap tool. All of these two plugins are basically can be installed in a context using the system that I have explained. You can basically always check out more information about MapStore consulting basically our online documentation. Both developer and user guides are available for MapStore. That's it for the moment. I think that Landry and Maël can continue with their presentation, and at the end I will continue, let's say, presenting some ongoing work, okay, of new features that we are working on now.
Thank you, Tobias. Could you have a look at the notes? There's lots of questions, and you'll probably be able to have lots of answers for us, I think.
But there is a specific session in this presentation for the questions, I suppose, or not?
Okay.
At the end, yeah. At the end of the roadmap presentation, yeah.
Perfect. Maël and Landry?
Okay. Do you see? Yes, it's going. Okay, that's it. So please be kind with me because I'm not used to speak in English for this kind of presentation. So please be kind. Okay. In a few minutes, we wanted to not to show you, but to give you some keys if you have planned in the next month or the next weeks or the next month to migrate from MapFishApp to MapStore. Here in Rennes, we are fully in this migration. We started this morning, as Catherine Morales said before, a set of session for our users. And we will upgrade in September and October the other users. And so we noted some things, some key points you may have to have in mind in the goal to migrate from MapFishApp into MapStore. The first things, as you have seen, is that the user interface, it's all new. It's very all new. So we can notice that we have some new things, good things, and something we maybe have to discuss. Some advantage or all is floating panels, all in integrated. It is more I can't think my words. A more organized UI. It's ready for mobility on smartphone, on tablets, and it's a big point. Maybe we can discuss on that. It is maybe more intuitive for non-specialists of GIS, for non-cartographers, because we think that MapFishApp is entirely designed for geographers and or users or customers or not geographers at start. Maybe things we have to discuss in the community for the next month is on the UI, in size of buttons, size of text, but we know that MapStore can be entirely customized. On things I will have to say to you later, it's some things about keywords on concept to clarify with our customers in order to have a good migration. Adding data, as you can see, the UI interface and key functionalities for adding data are quite similar from MapFishApp and in MapStore. You could set up some data servers, catalog servers. All is quite similar. Just a warning about the result of a search on CSW catalog. If you search on GeoNetwork, now you have two wide results. It is a point in discussion, and we think in September or October it will be fixed. Backgrounds. The backgrounds are quite similar to in MapFishApp or in MapStore. You have a notion of backgrounds. You have a notion of the backgrounds could be added by map templates. In MapFishApp, you load map templates in order to have base layer, ortho layers, city map. And a big improvement in MapStore is that we can use native WMTS or TMS layers in the table of content, in the list of the layers. Backgrounds are quite similar, but in the UI, it's quite different. The functionality is similar, but the way to have a background on the layers in your talks is a little different. So you have to test to see how it works. A big new feature that we missed from years, it's groups, the possibility and the ability to manage layers in groups, and it is a big improvement. I don't know how you manage your layers in MapFishApp now, but when you have projects or thematics environment, you must organize. And now we could organize that in a very efficient way. A little warning, and we will discuss that later. It is linked, the behavior of the groups is linked to the map templates when you add in map templates in your maps. Map templates. In MapFishApp, map templates are maps creating by the administrators and put in the small area, the small window, which offers customer a quick way to add or to load data in their map. A map in MapFishApp, it's layer, it's a list of layers, the styles of the layer, the opacity of the layers, and the B-box, the zoom. In MapStore, we have the same thing plus the backgrounds. The backgrounds are the small images, and you can entirely switch your base map. That's the UI for the map templates. It's quite similar in functionality with MapFishApp, but but a little different in the UI. You have to note that when you choose a map template and you add it in your map, they are added, the layers in the map template are added in groups of layers. Here in the small screen capture, the OPH centre ancien is a map template and it's added as a group layer. The user session. The user session is the only way to have on-the-fly state of the map. In MapFish app, you can't choose that. When you start working in MapFish app, all you do in the map is store in a cookie. I think I can't remember. I think it's with cookie and local storage. We're working together, I think. In MapStore,
local storage.
Local storage. In MapStore, you have to activate a dedicated plugin to let your users to have a map automatically saved. If your user shut down the browser and reopen the browser the next after, if you want, as in MapFish app, he wants to have the same map as yesterday, you have to activate this. But a little warning, because it may has confusion interaction with context and save maps. You have to test the behavior of that to understand how it works. Now the context. The context is something that we do not have in MapFish app. It's all new in geOrchestra. What is it? It is a functionality. It's a core functionality that let administrator to set up and that I call in this presentation an application. It is composed of backgrounds, layers, so a map basically, functionality, or the functionality or activity plugin, because all you see in the UI is plugin. You could have talk, table of content, no table of content, zoom in, zoom out, all is customized. And this is a thing I call functionality, and you can set moreover the permissions. If you have managed if you want to manage group, it is set to the geOrchestra roles by now. The context is quite simple to set up because you have a three-step organization. Create a context, load the maps, load the layers, setting up the maps, and then choose a configuration, choose the plugins. A lot of plugins could be customized by a few or a lot JSON, and could be activated by default in the context, or let the user activate it in the URTFS, in the UI. A little point on the URLs, sorry. If you are in MapStore admin, you have diez, I don't know, diez in English, diez admin. MapStore diez, it's a default context. When you load MapStore by default, you see a map and you see functionalities. This is already a context that admins must to set up or must configure. Then if you want to have another other context, you create context, and then the URL is a reflect of the name you choose for the context. Functionality to export or import a map. These two functionalities, import, export, is a very simple way to save custom maps in a in a MapStore way JSON syntax file. You could export or import WMC2 in a way to manage compatibility with MapFish app. but the save the map functionality is there is similarities and difference between Mapfish app. In MapStore, the save the map functionality will save layers, styles, opacity, bbox, backgrounds, and a link to parent context. Because as I said before, even if you are in the default geOrchestra, the default MapStore map, you are already in a context. So if you make save as my map, this map is stored in the server database in server side, and it inherits with parent functionality, with the context functionalities. And a little warning: it is mixed with admin maps, what we can offer to the users. Save the map, donc server side stored. There is a UI to search with another thematic application or map catalog functionality panel. And I make a warning. We make a warning with interaction with context on your user session. I can't explain more, but you have to test. We think you have to start with few functionalities, test, and add functionalities little by little. What's about URLs? Yes, the third point is when you save a server, a save map server side, the kind of URLs change. New functionalities, so it's the map catalogs on the thematic that we recently renamed as thematic application. Maybe we could discuss on that. And we point that the UI in this part of MapStore mix admin maps with allowed functionalities on user maps, which has allowed plus inherited functionalities. So this could be quite disappointing for new customers, new users. I draw a little schema, but I don't want to afraid new e-commerce. What I want you to remember that is MapStore comes with a full many features out of the box. So it's a very pleasure to discover that, and it opened some doors to create very configuration for thematic application, for thematic user. It's possible, and it's quite possible in with few clicks on organization. One thing I forget, it's there is very more interaction with data, and it's a very good point for geOrchestra with this visualizer. Viewer. Okay, Landry?
Yes, thank you,
I
man.
hope it was clear. It's not easy.
Your English is perfect.
Perfect. No problem. Everybody understood.
Yeah, so Maël explained you what was the things to know if you want to migrate from Mapfish app to MapStore, and I will list a small list of limitations that we have found so far with MapStore, and it's not really limitations. It's more things that will be developed and funded, but it's some kind of things that need to be known. As it's already an existing project, it has its own community, which means that if you have a question regarding MapStore. Well, you can ask the geOrchestra community, but so far we are not many fluent with MapStore. So there's also the MapStore community, which interacts mostly in English, so that has to be known. And over time, I think many people from the geOrchestra community should try to discuss with the MapStore community, because what we are funding with inside geOrchestra also benefits the MapStore community. And the other way, of course, if MapStore users develops features, we will benefit from them in the geOrchestra project as we update MapStore along its new versions. So it is something to be known that it's an existing community like GeoServer and GeoNetwork, and it's another Geo community to interact with. It has to be known. One of the things that are missing, you can less access it, you can less parameterize it with URL parameters. That's something many people did with MapFish app. You could create a map with a list of add-ons, just adding parameters in the address bar in the browser. That's something that is missing in MapStore. Well, it has some parts of this feature, like the zoom on the B box, that kind of thing. But many of the things that we were used to do with MapFish app aren't available with MapStore. They are available differently, so it's something that will be improved. Mostly, the most important thing that is missing is how to add an arbitrary layer from an arbitrary server to the map from outside, which is something that is used right now in GeoNetwork to open a layer from GeoNetwork, and we will open the layer in the viewer. That's something that will be funded in the coming weeks. As Maël explained, there are the notions of context and maps are something quite difficult to grasp at the beginning, but once you've understood it, it's very powerful. We put in production at Craig last few weeks a context that was made parameterized once, from which we made 30 viewers for 30 different partners, and the context had to be created only once, and from that point we only had to multiply the context instances, only modifying some few things in the maps. So it's something very powerful, but it's difficult to understand at the beginning. So that's really something we will try as much as we can to explain in details. By default, that's something that is a bit surprising. When you create a map and you save it, nobody can see it. You have to remember to make the map available to everyone. Otherwise, you are the only one that can access it. That's something that I think you can easily forget, and the people you will send the URL to won't be able to open your map. So that's something to remember. Always remember to make the map you save available to anyone. It's something that...
And sorry, Landry, can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
For this specific topic. So basically, which is the MapStore politics about this? So like as happened basically in other systems, in other application, when you create a resource, this resource is private by default. So you are the only one that you can see it. So at that point, you can choose if you want to share it or not. Basically, this is basically the MapStore behavior, the MapStore politics around that topic. I mean, just this.
Yeah, I just wanted to stress that it's something to remember, because otherwise I'm pretty sure people will create maps and forget to
of course.
the button. That's another topic that is something that used to be a problem with MapFish app, and it's the same problem with MapStore, but you can't really blame anyone for that. It depends a lot on features that are only present in GeoServer for some aspects. So that's a bit annoying if you plan to interact with third-party servers which aren't GeoServer. Some things won't work. So it's a topic that has to be improved, but I would say for example, it uses the WMS describe layer, WFS describe layer operation to link WMS layer with the WFS, which allows you to open the attribute table for a layer. And that kind of thing, for example, doesn't work if your layer comes from map server. And I've opened issues on the map server side to have the missing parameters, but some other things are to be fixed on the MapStore side. So the list of formats for an image, for example, to load in a WMS is hard-coded, but that's something that is being currently fixed in MapStore and will be fixed in the next upgrade, I think. But if you plan to use other layers coming from other servers, you must be aware that it might be a bit complicated. At Craig, we have layers, lots of layers in map proxy and map server. The map proxy layers, some of them will work, and it's only small interoperability problems. But as long as you only use GeoServer, you won't have any kind of issues. But I know it's a topic that came in the past with in the geOrchestra community. Some people wanted to integrate QGIS and that's the same kind of issues might happen at that point. So it's something to be seen. Something else that people used to do with MapFishApp, you could have I would say the admin maps where you could save layers, WMC files in the geOrchestra data tier in the MapFishApp directory. That's something that can work with MapStore, but you have to whitelist the names of the files. It's something well hidden, but if you want to do that and don't find it, just ask me. I'll explain you. For the rights on the maps, that is something that I just realized recently. You can only give access to people that are in a role to a map. That means you can only use roles, and you can't use geOrchestra organizations. Say you want to create a map and share it with an organization, you won't be able to do that. You will have to create a matching role. And I think that's something that might be interesting for large platforms that have many organizations and want to create maps that are only kept within an organization. As for really modern things, MapStore is a really good base, but it has its drawbacks. If you worked a bit with MapFishApp and created plugins for MapFishApp, forget everything you had learned 10 years ago. The ecosystem changed a lot, so it's a completely new paradigm to write anything. I know from my point that I won't try to write plugins for MapStore. It's much too complicated to learn the new paradigms, but if you are a modern JavaScript developer, you will be fine with that. Pending the 3D support. The 3D support works. It's really nice. We use it in production at Craig, but it's only, in fact, it's only the terrain support. You can only see the globe. You have to use the digital elevation model to have it. It's quite hungry in resources for the server. If the layer is served by GeoServer, it's 20-30 requests per pan and zoom. So if you are on the globe and you move fast, you will see your browser heating up and everything. But it works fine. But it's only for the terrain and the elevation of the point where you have your mouse. If you want to do more, I'm coming to it. If you want to have buildings, if you want to have textures on top of volumes, volume extrusion, all that kind of thing, that's not yet available, but we started discussing with GeoSolution what's needed to integrate that support. We have an idea how much it will cost and when we can do it. If you're interested in this support, come talk to us. We will try to co-fund this feature, because that's something that will be necessary in the future to keep it relevant in the world where lots of 3D data is coming. I'm pretty sure many people want to see 3D buildings or 3D bridges or any kind of things. It's not only the base layer, the globe. And I think lots of people want 3D applications like co-visualization, compute the volumes of extruded terrain, that kind of thing. It's really something that will be improved in the coming year. MapStore doesn't support yet
Landry,
ROTIF.
can I stop you just 2 minutes? You know, I'm the timekeeper, and I think we need to be faster because we have lots of questions.
I'm over. I just have 2 points.
Perfect.
It doesn't support yet ROTIF and cloud optimized GeoTIF. That's something that will be a standard in the coming years. So that's something to keep in mind. Same thing for WFS3 or GC API. I'm pretty sure that's something people will migrate to. And the last thing, it's, as Maël said, it's super powerful. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of buttons everywhere, and everything is configurable. So you have to read lots and lots of documentation, and the documentation is extensive, but I think it's a bit lacking examples for all the plugins, clear examples for all the knobs that you can push on all the plugins. It's something that could be improved, but as it's something that will improve, because as we are more and more fluent, all of us within MapStore, I'm pretty sure we will share the knowledge we are gathering on MapStore. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Landry. And now you still have the la feuille de route?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just a second that I'm going to share the screen. I just need a few minutes. Just a second there, because I have also to select the slide. Okay. Let me know if you see my screen now.
Not yet. Okay, we see your screen.
Okay, I'm going to first of all thank you, Maël and Landry, for the good intervention and presentation, and for the compliments about MapStore. I mean, so few information news about the ongoing work on MapStore. As I wrote in the slide, we are actively working on interesting new features this year, to release this year, basically. So thank you all for supporting the MapStore community, because also we have also collected a few more, some more contribution last month for MapStore. So thank you all, really. Just a second. Okay, so
Tobias,
yeah.
Just to remember you that we need some time for the question.
Yeah, obviously.
Thank you.
So 3D tiles. This is something that we are planning for the end of this year, for the last quarter of this year. So basically, we are looking for contribution and funding for this, but it is something that we would like to co-finance, basically. Okay. So enhancements for Geostories, so introducing carousel tools for Geostories in order to give a in order to enrich and improve the immersive experience in working and consulting stories. We are working at adding additional capabilities to this style editor, like the possibility to do a unique interval classification and raster and classification for raster data. As I mentioned before, dashboards in Geostories, we are planning to add for the last quarter of this year the possibility to embed and include dashboards and charts in Geostories. We have started in the last quarter of last year on improving and enriching the downstream projects, basically improving we are currently working on improving the project system, the downstream project systems, and to gradually separate the core from the product and move things in NPM packages, along with improving also performance by reducing the loading time, in enhancing and improving the loading time. Since MapStore is growing very quickly, this is something that we need to take care continuously. So this is something that we have in plan to improve and enrich during this year. Questions? How can we proceed for questions?
You can see there's notes on the left side where there's lots of questions.
Okay.
Scroll them. The first one will be.
Should I start from the beginning, I suppose?
Please, yeah.
I think lots of questions were already answered.
Yeah, it seems.
There were questions about the style, but I think it's we have to enable it somewhere because lots of people don't find it by default. I know I managed to enable it.
What? Sorry.
But the style editor.
The style editor. Yeah. Basically.
I'm not even sure it's enabled by default in the default configuration.
It should be. It should be. Anyway, there is a. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
There is a plugin for this, and obviously, since this interacts basically with the GeoServer REST API, you need to basically have enough permission. You need enough permission for this to enable this in the UI, basically. So, for example, now I'm logged in as an administrator. So if I open the layer settings and then access the style tab, we have some additional tools here so that you can basically edit, for example, the existing style. Here there is the style editor where you can manage in that case, the classification. You can always switch in text mode, for example. So there is a plugin anyway to enable for this.
That this plugin allow you to make the classification, to call the classification?
Yeah, but MapStore automatically recognizes if the SLD service in MapStore in GeoServer is enabled, because for this MapStore uses the SLD service in GeoServer. That in order to build the classification, is the SLD service that does the classification basically.
Okay. And that also might explain why many people didn't find it, because just recently the SLD service extension in GeoServer wasn't enabled in the geOrchestra build. So I know I have it working without the SLD service because that's only for classification, but it's enabled. I enabled it recently in the 20.0 and 20.1 branches. So both the style editor should work and the classification should work now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, in the future, there will be also the possibility to do custom classification directly using the UI.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a question from Jack from Corsica. A tool to access cadastral data. If you had used Cadastrap within Mapfish app, or if you've seen it, the equivalent already exists. It's an extension that goes within MapStore, and it works pretty fine. And in Craig, we are going to enable it by default in production when we have the 2021 data. So it's already there. It just needs more users.
I can show just that it is available.
Okay.
So
I had the question about SLD raster.
Raster, where? Sorry, which question?
The styling of raster with SLD.
The styling. Yeah. What is the question? I didn't see it.
In the chat on the left, the public discussion.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not able to catch it. Anyway, raster styles can be managed through the visual style editor in MapStore. In the same way, you can manage a vector symbolizer for vector styles, I mean. So at the moment, we are working specifically to enable the classification for raster styles. That is not available at the moment in the current MapStore version, but it will be available in the next major release that will be delivered in July. Okay. So, but anyway, apart from that, beside that, raster styles can be managed in the same way of vectors1 in MapStore using the same tool.
Okay, thank you. The first question from Srevrin was, can we access the dashboard and the stories in the MapStore integrating geOrchestra? Is it possible?
At the moment, no, because there isn't a specific integration for this. You can, but not without some coding, because the UI of geOrchestra is not yet organized in order to host dashboards for the moment. So at the moment, we have concentrated the integration to serve maps. Okay, so around maps. But dashboards can be used, obviously, in MapStore, but we have to find somewhere the good way to present them in the geOrchestra application, in the geOrchestra context, basically, because the UI is totally concentrated in maps, for maps at the moment in geOrchestra. So
okay,
we need to find some other. A new tab, for example, in the geOrchestra UI in order to present that information. It is something available out of the box if you add the possibility to present that kind of resource some way. Okay. Obviously, there is a plugin that need to be enabled in order to manage dashboards.
And is it the same thing for the stories?
Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, if I can share the screen for a moment, I can show you how by default that kind of contents are managed in MapStore, in the MapStore product. This is our QA instance of MapStore. As you can see, all resource type are stored in the MapStore backend, in the MapStore databases, and what we need to do is for geOrchestra is simply to organize, to find or decide a way to present contents like we are doing in the MapStore on page. As you can see, you can browse between different tabs for dashboards, Geostories, maps, organize your featured content, and so on. This is how contents are presented by default in the MapStore product. Okay.
Thank you. Another question from Hervé was, is there any example with some WPS supports?
Yeah. There are a few plugins that are using the WPS support in MapStore. I should be able to show something because in the last major release we included a new tool for exporting data that is working on top of the WPS download process in GeoServer. Okay, so if you open the table of content and if you select a layer, there is a export layer data that is basically that can work in two mode. Basically, the default one using WFS, okay, and the improved one we recently included using the WPS for more extended exports, for big exports, basically. Okay, so MapStore is able to automatically, with a preventive check, is automatically able to recognize if the WPS process is available server-side in GeoServer, and if it is available, an advanced UI is presented to the user, so you can basically here manipulate parameters of the WPS process by selecting the formats, the available, the supported format of the WPS process, the spatial reference system. This list is customizable, obviously. And
this UI will work only if the WPS is stored in the GeoServer, not if it's another service.
Yeah, exactly. This is basically this UI basically is presented according to the layer type. If the layer is raster, there are also other properties specific for raster layers that can be manipulated here. And as soon as you click on exports, you have a tooltip here that informs you that a process has been performed basically as run, and so you can download the result. Okay.
Thank you.
So this is an example of interaction with the WPS service. Then there are other tools like the attribute table and the filter layer tools that are using some WPS process for the autocomplete, for example. For these autocomplete functionalities, and also charts are using some way the WPS aggregate process. If you want to build a chart aggregating your data, so for the average, for example, sum or something like this. Okay.
Okay. Is there any other question? Several asked if the dashboard in Geostories is planned for 2021 or not. For GeOrchestra.
Dashboard in
from the first question,
I cannot answer this.
And do you think there is some? You need some development. So there is some how do you say that? Il y a besoin d'argent. Comment on dit ça en anglais? There is some
funding.
I think it's something that needs funding. It's more or less that.
Okay. Jean asked another question. How do you discover what plugins are available? So, Jean, I'm not sure to understand your question. Could you ask it, please? Because I don't know if it's how to find which plugins are installed or where to find them.
Yeah, my question was about what kind of plugin you can install. So not available on the basic install, but what, for instance, Geostrap, is it installed by default? Do you have to add it? And if yes, how can you find what's possible, what's available?
So I can talk about the plugins available in MapStore. Sorry. So here in the online documentation, you can reach a section where there is a JavaScript documentation where all plugins in MapStore are documented. Okay. Then also the user guide can help you on understanding the involved functionalities for each plugin. But here you can basically find a page where all plugins in MapStore are documented. Okay. Then
this is true only for the core plugin from the MapStore core. If we all the developments that are made are not in this documentation.
There isn't a documentation, an online documentation at the moment for geOrchestra plugins that we have developed. So it will be probably useful to start organizing, to start thinking about this, doing something like I'm showing now, for example, in order to collect an entry page, in order to do an entry page where custom plugins or plugins developed for geOrchestra are documented and are reported and collected. But at the moment, there are just few plugins. Urban is Cadastrap, and some other I know are under development. So
for me, it's linked to the subject of documentation globally.
yeah.
We will set
can
up an entry point in docs.
This is something mostly up to you, basically, on how to decide, how to organize that part. It's something that can be done, obviously.
Is there any question? Est-ce que certains d'entre vous ont des questions qu'ils veulent poser en français? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres points? Il reste encore 5 minutes.
I see a question. What backend with MapStore? Only geOrchestra. I don't know if I can reply to this.
Of course.
Basically, MapStore has its own backend that is developed in Java, okay, and that is used in order to organize and harmonize and manage in general MapStore services, MapStore REST services to manage the MapStore model and the persistence and so on. That backend has been integrated along with the front-end part in geOrchestra. So geOrchestra is not the backend of MapStore. geOrchestra is the application where MapStore has been integrated. Then MapStore has its own backend in Java. That obviously we have improved and updated to allow the integration with for example, the geOrchestra security proxy and so on, to manage permissions and other kind of things at the moment. I don't remember their details, basically, but anyway.
Thank you. I have a question from Fabrice, but I'm not sure. Yeah. Fabrice and Hervé ask if there is any link with sensor things or TGS in the current MapStore.
Links to? Sorry?
How do you say that in English? Sensor things.
Sensor things. I think it's IoT captors, sensors. The kind of sensor data like what used to be SOS.
Yeah. Not by default. We did some development for some of our customers, but
so there is something that exists, but it's not available for them, for everyone.
Yeah, it is not available out of the box, but you can obviously, as I said, MapStore can be easily improved and customized for this kind of purposes. So.
And for TJACE, do you think there's something existing? Landry, je t'ai vu sourire.
So, I'm sorry, TG?
It's something that it's the table join service, which is something that's not much known and not much standardized, and that's
no, not at the moment.
But I am pretty sure it's something that can be done with WPS.
Okay. Thanks a lot for all those presentations and all this answer to all the questions. The last question, the last one.
Tout était si clair que ça que tout le monde est rassuré et mis sur MapStore en septembre-octobre.
Il n'y a personne qui parle. Personne ne veut.
Pourquoi pas.
En même temps, MapStore a déjà beaucoup déployé, donc.
Tout le monde est parti en courant.
Allumez vos caméras, ceux qui ont mis du MapStore en route.
Moi, elle est déjà allumée. Tu crois qu'ils sont tous partis au café?
Je sais pas. Ouais, Catherine. Ouais. Merci, Catherine. Ouais, quand même.
You are mute.
We just say to lend the camera to all the people that have MapStore installed on the platform.
Yeah, a good question from Hervé. MapStore versus MViewer.
It's not
I
the
think
same.
it's not the same thing. I think Map Viewer now it's has its own standalone project. I think they will live together side by side for a while. MapStore right now can replace SViewer. If you still add SViewer, you just have to configure MapStore without any plugin, and you have an SViewer. But other than that, MViewer, I really don't know.
MapStore is much more complicated, and you can do much more things and create things by yourself. You need to. There is no development needed, but yeah, it's two things different. We now at the end of this presentation. Thanks a lot, guys. It was really interesting. Thank you, everybody, to open the camera.
Thank you too for the opportunity.
And
next year we could drink
we collaborate a lot.
a beer in présentiel, as we say in French.
Collaborate a lot, and we hope you'll be able to come to the geOcom.
Hopefully. Yeah.
We're going to go back to French language. On repasse en français du coup, et François, si tu es là, c'est maintenant à toi de reprendre la main pour faire un petit point sur les développements récents. Est-ce que quelqu'un, juste avant la prise en main de François, a quelque chose à demander, à dire? Parce que je vous rappelle que c'est un geOcom, on échange.
Oui, une petite précision, parce qu'on n'a pas été clair tout à l'heure. C'est juste pour dire que effectivement, c'est Rennes Métropole et surtout Catherine, Catherine qui a fait, qui a passé beaucoup de temps sur le leader, la conduite du projet MapStore, mais le portage dans geOrchestra n'a pas été fait que par Rennes Métropole, puisqu'on s'est mis à 4 structures, comme on avait fait pour Cadastrap et puis pour d'autres choses. Donc il y a le Craig, les Hauts-de-France, Géo-Grand Est et le Puy-en-Velay qui sont venus avec nous, Rennes, pour faire un financement en commun du portage de MapStore voilà. Donc et ça c'est super, c'est vraiment quelque chose qui est extra et super avec la communauté, c'est qu'on peut faire ce genre de choses parce qu'on en a la volonté et ça marche très bien, quoi. Donc faut pas avoir peur de proposer à la communauté des choses à développer en commun.
Et
voilà.
c'est pas la première fois que ça se fait, le cadastre.
Voilà, n'ayez pas peur, on a tous les trucs administratifs. Catherine, je parle sous ton couvert, mais il y a plusieurs façons de monter ça. On sait le faire en communauté et c'est vraiment. Et en plus, j'ai l'impression que ça se développe un peu ailleurs. Donc, on était prêts.
C'est aussi l'idée de ce geOcom là. Si vous êtes plusieurs que vous connaissiez pas avant, mais que vous aviez des idées communes, ça va aussi nous donner pour le PSC de les orientations à donner et pourquoi pas des financements communs. Jean, j'ai vu que tu voulais parler et d'un coup tu veux plus parler.
Oui, je sais pas, la main était baissée toute seule. Ouais, c'est juste un petit commentaire rapide pour rebondir un peu sur la question de Hervé. En fait, pour le portail en Slovaquie, on était parti pour une migration vers MapStore depuis MViewer. Et on est revenu en arrière parce qu'il y avait un truc qui les bloquait vraiment, qui les embêtait, c'était le fait de ne pas pouvoir ouvrir les ressources listées dans le GeoNetwork dans MapStore. Donc par défaut, il faut les ouvrir dans MViewer. Donc ça veut dire qu'on peut pas vraiment se passer de MViewer. Du coup, pour l'instant, c'est encore un peu bancal cette affaire-là. Même si bon, je sais bien que c'est en discussion et que ça sera réglé. Bah oui, pour l'instant, ça l'est pas.
D'accord.